So welcome back to the workshop, and the next step for me with this Guyatone project is for me to carve the neck for my replica. Now when you look at older instruments, the necks on them tend to be maybe much deeper than a modern instrument, and this is certainly chunkier than I would ever dream of making a neck these days. Why is it deeper? Well, without an adjustable truss rod or carbon fibre, you know, the maker's got to be confident that that neck isn't going to pull forward. They've got to make it as stiff as possible, and the way to do that is to make that neck deep. But of course, by making it deep, it becomes, you know, chunky and uncomfortable to actually play. So the way you get over that is by removing a lot of material in these areas and getting that kind of typical V or triangular shape profile that you find on many older instruments. And as I say, in spite of the depth of this neck, with this sort of triangular V-shaped profile, it's actually remarkably comfortable. So after a bit of soul searching, toing and froing with thinking of what I'm going to do, how I'm going to tackle the neck on my one, do I carve it so it's a kind of a modern feel? I've decided that what I really have got to do is kind of replicate this shape of neck. So I'm going to carve it deeper than I would normally do, and I'm going to make it into this sort of triangular cross section. Because I think it's important that whoever eventually buys this instrument gets a kind of vintage experience, for want of a better term. I want them to pick this up and for it not only to look like an older instrument, but to actually feel like an older instrument too. So what I've been doing is I've been making some templates, taking the profile of this, and I've made a number of cardboard templates which I'll use as a guide when I'm carving that neck. And it's silly really, you wouldn't believe how long it's taken me to get to this stage with these four templates. Drawing, planning out, getting the profile right, comparing it to this, width of the fretboard, all of that business. I bet it's taken me as long to make these 4 pieces of cardboard as it is, or as it will be, for me to carve that neck. So I'm ready to start shaping the neck, and what I've got are fixed positions, 1st, 5th, 9th, 12th, and I know what the depth of the neck should be at those points. So my first task is to take it down to that desired depth at those points, and then kind of join those points together so I've got the correct depth all the way along the neck. And I've said it before, this is one of my favourite neck shaping tools, this Shinto saw rasp, made in Japan. And wouldn't it be nice to think that the original Guyatone neck was shaped with one of these? So here we go. Right, so those are my 4 depths that I want. Join this all up now. Right, so I've got the neck now to the depth that I want all the way along, and that's nice and flat. So the next thing for me to do is to remove the bulk of the waste from either side, and I'll probably use a combination of the rasp and my spoke shave. So the bulk of the waste wood has been taken off now, and what I've got to do is I've got to very carefully use the templates to get that desired profile. I guess normally I do this very neutral curve, and I've done so many like that, kind of a muscle memory kicks in and I just crack on with it. But doing this now to a specific and different profile, I'm really having to work a lot more cautiously. You know, the old adage, you can always take more off but you can't put it back on. Something that has worked incredibly well are these Craig clamps. You would have seen them in use on various projects that I've been using, but I've been doing. But you know, you drill the holes in the bench as you would for a bench dog, and these go into those holes, and the whole thing clamps down really firmly onto the bench, allowing me to work on the neck. And really, after all the mandolins I've been doing, this neck actually seems like a monster. But as I say, very carefully now, working down to the templates, and really again using the Shinto saw rasp, and also I'm starting to use these Japanese wood carving files. They do take a bit of getting used to. If you get the angle of attack wrong, they kind of dig in, but when you get it right, they're absolutely superb. So those really are probably going to be the main tools now for this profile shaping. So yeah, let's get on with that then. So if I put my template on, what I can see is that in general I need to take much more off the sides here, and of course that's what you'd expect because I want that kind of V profile. So day 2, and I'm really into the final shaping now. As you can see, the templates are more or less fitting, and for this last stage I like to use a cabinet scraper. I find it easier to kind of pinpoint the area that I want to take down with the cabinet scraper, and also you don't run the risk of tearing a grain with a spoke shave or leaving deep grooves from any sort of rasp. So yeah, scraping away until I'm happy, and then it'll have its final sand. So what I'm doing now is just doing the final sanding and kind of tweaking the shape if I need to, and that's all done with abrasive paper. The abrasive paper, I've stuck this onto a piece of wood, or I'll use a cork block, because what you don't want to do is just use the paper by hand. Great temptation to do that, but if there are any undulations in the neck, you'll just go in and out of those undulations and exaggerate them, because what you want is, although you want this curve going that way, you want the surface being straight going along the length of it. So once that's kind of sanded to my satisfaction, I've got the Indian rosewood heel cap, which matches the fretboard. That will be glued on. I'll do my final little bit of shaping there, and then we can call the neck done. So there we are. I've now completed the neck. It's been shaped, sanded, coat of sanding sealer on it to stop it from getting grubby, and I'm really pleased with the way that that's turned out. And before you ask me, yes, it did take me considerably longer to carve the neck than make those 4 cardboard templates. Although I must say the time spent making those templates was incredibly useful, because this neck has turned out exactly how I wanted it to be. And you know, the really weird thing about it, the really odd thing is that now when I pick this up, it doesn't feel like one of my instruments. It does actually feel like an old vintage instrument. I mean, we've all had Hofners, Watkins, Guyatones, whatever back in the day, and it really does feel like one of those. And that's what I was after. I was after, you know, giving the player of this guitar that real kind of vintage feel, that vintage experience, as I said. So yeah, really pleased with that. So the completion of the neck is a landmark as far as the Guyatone is concerned, because that is all of the woodwork now completed. So we've got to start thinking about the next stage, but you have to wait for the next video. So until then, once again, many thanks for spending this time watching the video. Hope you found it of interest, and yeah, we'll see you soon. Take care. Cheers.